Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. The Young and the Restless spoilers. Jack and Diane's fake marriage blow up, Kyle and Victor duped by staged fight. The Young and the Restless, Wahi and R, spoilers reveal that Jack Abbott, Peter Bergman, and Diane Jenkins Abbott, Susan Walters, may have realized there's only one way to gain the upper hand against Victor Newman, Eric Braden. Since Victor has been boasting about the imminent dissolution of Diane and Jack's marriage, perhaps Diane and Jack have decided to put on a show for him. By making Victor think he's won, it could lull him into a false sense of security and give his enemies an advantage. Of course, Kyle Abbott, Michael Mealer, is part of the picture here, so maybe Jack and Diane have cooked up a plot to dupe him too. Let's look at the clues and consider Claire Newman's, Haley Aaron, potential role in what's potentially happening. For starters, Claire repeatedly offered to help Jack, so there may be a place for her in all this deception. Jack made it clear how conniving Victor could be, so Claire may be helping him pull one over on her grandfather. That brings us to some suspicious scenes in Y and R's October 17 episode. Claire drew Victoria Newman, Amelia Heinel, and Cole Howard's J. Eddie Peck. Attention to the conflict between Jack and Diane at Crimson Lights. So what if they're getting tricked as well? It's not easy to deceive Victor, so it would certainly be better if Cole and Victoria believe what Jack, Diane, and Claire are selling. We should also talk about that epic marriage blow-up between Jack and Diane that played out at the athletic club. It honestly seemed out of character for Jack to say such harsh things to Diane right there in public for anyone to hear. Perhaps the real goal was for Victor to witness Jack and Diane's fake marriage destruction along with Kyle, who seemed concerned about his parents for the first time in months. In other words, what if Claire is following through on her promise to help Jack by playing along with his Fox Diane blow-up? Let's not forget that Claire came on the scene as someone conning the Newman family, so she could easily pull this off. Diane and Jack may have decided to lean into Victor's perception of their crumbling relationship with a pretend fight that's worthy of divorce. This could help Claire tug at Kyle's heartstrings and maybe lead to him realizing he's gone too far. There might be a scene coming up where Jack apologizes profusely to Diane for saying terrible things he didn't mean. Diane might acknowledge that some of what Jack said was true and understand that he had to strike low blows to fool Victor and Kyle. Bottom line, what started off as genuine tension between Jack and Diane might have morphed into a deception game. Diane and Jack might be working with Claire to dupe Victor and Kyle, so we'll bring you more predictions on how all the drama will play out. In the bustling town of Genoa City, where alliances shift like sand in a windstorm and secrets lurk around every corner, Jack Abbott and Diane Jenkins found themselves at the center of a brewing storm. The couple, having tied the knot amid whispers and controversy, were about to face their biggest challenge yet, a challenge they themselves orchestrated. A carefully crafted plan to expose their enemies was beginning to spiral out of control, and it was only a matter of time before the fallout hit. A shaky foundation. Jack and Diane's marriage had always been more about strategy than love. Their shared history was riddled with betrayal, lies, and years of animosity. Yet somehow they had come together for a common goal. Diane, having returned to Genoa City after being presumed dead, had managed to convince Jack that they were stronger together than apart. Despite his initial skepticism, Jack had agreed. He knew aligning with Diane wasn't just about rekindling old flames. It was about power, protection, and keeping their enemies at bay. But what the rest of Genoa City didn't know was that Jack and Diane's marriage was nothing more than a facade. Behind closed doors, the couple plotted a daring ruse, one they hoped would draw out their foes and solidify their dominance. They knew their enemies were watching, waiting for them to slip up, and they intended to give them exactly what they were looking for, on their terms. The perfect setup. Jack's nemesis, Victor Newman, had never trusted Diane. He saw her as a manipulator, someone who would stop at nothing to get what she wanted. Victor had long suspected that her reunion with Jack was more calculated than heartfelt, and he wasn't wrong. However, he had no idea just how deep the deception ran. Jack and Diane knew Victor would stop at nothing to protect his empire, and they intended to use his paranoia against him. Their plan was simple: stage a massive blow-up, a public fight that would make everyone in Genoa City believe that their marriage was crumbling. It would be messy, dramatic, and, most importantly, believable. By faking the downfall of their relationship, they hoped to lure Victor and Kyle into making rash decisions, exposing their vulnerabilities. The fight begins. The scene was set at the Abbott Mansion, with Jack and Diane putting on a performance that would rival any Shakespearean drama. The tension in the room was palpable as the couple squared off, their voices raised, accusations flying. "You never intended for this marriage to work," Jack bellowed, slamming his fist on the table. "I was just another pawn in your game, wasn't I, Diane?" Diane, ever the master manipulator, didn't miss a beat. Tears welled in her eyes as she played the part of the wronged wife to perfection. "How dare you accuse me of that? I've done nothing but try to make this marriage work. But you've been distant ever since the day we said, 'I do.'" Their words echoed through the mansion, and just as planned, Kyle and Victor, who had been lurking nearby, overheard the entire exchange. Kyle, Jack's son, had been suspicious of his father's relationship with Diane from the start, but seeing it unravel in front of his eyes filled him with a mix of anger and sadness. He had tried to warn his father about Diane, but Jack had refused to listen. Victor, on the other hand, couldn't hide his satisfaction. He had always believed that Diane was bad news, and now it seemed like his instincts had been right all along. This was the moment he had been waiting for, a chance to swoop in and take advantage of the situation. The aftermath. The stage fight had the desired effect. Word of Jack and Diane's supposed marital strife spread like wildfire through Genoa City. Gossip swirled, and everyone had an opinion on what had gone wrong between the once powerful couple. But more importantly, Victor and Kyle began to act on the information they had gathered. Kyle, believing his father was blinded by love, approached Victor with a proposal. "We need to step in before this gets worse," he said, his voice filled with frustration. "Diane's been manipulating my dad for months, and now he's finally seeing the truth. We can't let her destroy everything." Victor nodded in agreement, his mind already racing with ideas. He had been waiting for an opportunity like this, something he could use to his advantage. With Jack distracted by his crumbling marriage, Victor could swoop in and make moves that would secure his empire's future. But what he didn't realize was that Jack and Diane were still very much in control of the situation. The duping. As the weeks passed, Kyle and Victor worked behind the scenes, each trying to protect their interests. Victor began subtly influencing Kyle, urging him to distance himself from Jack's decisions and take a more active role in the family business. Kyle, believing he was helping his father, followed Victor's lead. He had no idea that he was walking straight into the trap Jack and Diane had set for him. Meanwhile, Jack and Diane watched from the shadows, their plan unfolding perfectly. The stage fight had been just the beginning. They knew that by making Kyle and Victor believe their marriage was on the rocks, they could manipulate them into revealing their true intentions. And as Kyle and Victor grew more confident in their actions, Jack and Diane prepared to strike. In a private conversation, Diane couldn't help but smirk. "They're playing right into our hands," she said, her voice dripping with satisfaction. Victor thinks he's outsmarted us, but he has no idea what's coming. Jack, ever the strategist, nodded in agreement. Let them think they've won. When the time is right, we'll expose everything. Victor's arrogance will be his downfall, and Kyle, well, he'll learn the hard way that loyalty can't be bought. The blow-up. The day of reckoning finally arrived. In a shocking turn of events, Jack and Diane revealed their ruse at a high-profile Abbott family event. With all of Genoa City watching, they exposed the stage fight for what it was, a carefully crafted ploy to uncover their enemy's true motives. Kyle, devastated by the betrayal, realized too late that he had been manipulated not by Diane, but by Victor. His father had been playing the long game all along, and now Kyle was left to pick up the pieces. Victor, furious at being outwitted, vowed revenge, but Jack knew that he had won this round. As the dust settled, Jack and Diane stood victorious. Their fake marriage blow-up had achieved exactly what they had hoped. It had duped Victor and Kyle, exposed their weaknesses, and solidified Jack and Diane's power in Genoa City. But in a town where alliances are ever shifting, Jack knew one thing for certain: the game was far from over.